Commissioners meeting for September 10th, 2019. We'll begin our meeting by asking Pastor Dan Phillips to come forward to give our invocation, and Commissioner Larry Harvey will lead us in the pledge. Please stand if you're able.
Commissioners, since the last time that we met, some very serious things have happened in our state and in our county. They have happened such that they have just turned lives upside down. But we've got a God that is able. He knows what has happened. He knows how to protect. He knows how to meet needs. And he asks us to show the same compassion to them that we would want extended to us. Let's pray. Father, here as we are in this county commission meeting, we know some terrible things have happened. Some very extreme things have happened in our weather. Lives have been changed. Lives have been changed forever. And Father, we ask that you move with the same compassion you extend to us, that we extend that compassion to others. Help them to sense and to know their feelings. Help us to know their hurt, their anxiety, and help us, Father, to move to make things better. So, Father, in this county, we have got some wonderful leaders. We have got some leaders that have chosen to be available, to throw their hat in the ring, and to want to make this county better. And so, Father, guide them, move among them, and help them, Father, to make our county better. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Phillips, and thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Okay, Commissioners, on our first item of business, item 2, approval of the June 18th, 2019 Board of County Commissioner regular workshop minutes.
So moved.
For approve.
Okay, we got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next on our agenda is item 3, public hearing. So we'll open up the public hearing portion of this meeting for planning and development services. And item A, I'm going to ask John Siafi to come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This item is going to be continued to our next board meeting. We're working on the ordinance verbiage with legal. Get it corrected.
Okay,
You
so
need a motion to continue, Mr. Chairman? Or
Yeah, I believe we need a motion for a continuance to the to next regular board meeting.
Yes, sir.
So moved. Can we make that a date and time certain so we don't have to do a second advertisement
what's the
possibly?
date of the next meeting?
9/24 at 9 a.m. would be great.
Make that 9/24 at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Second.
Got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Same sign. Okay, thank you. Since we have to use a minute, well, I'm going to do this anyway. This is kind of impromptu, but I would just like to have all the staff, the department heads, constitutional officers, the sheriff's officers, Colonel Joe Wells and Sheriff DeLoach, and Alex Sharp, our staff. Would y'all just please stand so we can recognize y'all for all the hard work that y'all put in during the hurricane? And I know some staff that couldn't be here today, but hopefully they can hear me, and it's just our deepest appreciation as far as the county commissioners. I'm just so proud to be a commissioner and to work with all of y'all on a day-to-day basis, and especially during a situation such as a hurricane. So I know in the closing comments, Administrator Suggs is going to address that, and but I just wanted to say that this morning. I really appreciate everybody. So we have a 9:05 certain Port Authority, so I'll recess the regular County Board of County Commission meeting. I'll convene the Port Authority meeting. And first item of business, item A, approval of the minutes of the June 18th, 2019 Port Authority regular workshop.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
We got a proper motion by Commissioner Goddard, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I'll open the public comment portion of this meeting. Any individual wishing to speak on any items of the Port Authority, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion and general discussion. Commissioners, any items you wish to discuss?
I got one.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
Can we get an update on the Project Clay?
I was actually gonna ask that
gonna
myself.
say I was
Hey,
too.
Commissioner Turner splash pad?
Afternoon at the workshop, but this is fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just figure for public edification, I know we're, got some new news, I'm sure.
Thank you, Julianne.
Good morning. How are you?
Where's she at?
Just a brief update. Watch it, Turner. Because we are still in the blackout period. So the proposals closed yesterday, or the bids were due yesterday, and I'm really happy we received 7 proposals.
Excellent.
So that's a really good pool for our committee. The proposals are now going out to the evaluation team, and we'll begin the evaluation meetings as they were published. So we'll have a first meeting, and then we'll have presentations, and then a second meeting. So it'll take us a few more weeks for that committee to go ahead and narrow down who they think is going to provide the best value to the county, and then you'll be seeing it back.
So beginning of next month, maybe?
I believe we have it scheduled for mid-October, just due to some scheduling with our evaluation committee.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Is it too early for me to ask the question on what the range was from the low to the high proposal?
It's far too early.
Did you have y'all open the envelopes?
No, I really didn't.
Well, in an
You
RFP,
want any more
remember, an
clarification?
RFP is not based on cost alone, and it's very customizable. So that's part of what your committee is going to be doing. They're going to be going through these proposals and then asking these firms to narrow down it to try to get an apples-to-apples comparison. So these are not real numbers, but as we work today, we could have one company at $1 and one company at $1 million. Over the next week, we're going to get everybody to the same range given the amount of products. But then that is still customizable once it comes to workshop and y'all decide what you want to spend based on the components that you can buy for those dollars. So it's a very fluid situation, and for today, there is no range of costs.
Okay, would it be reasonable to ask at this point that the committee be told that budget is a consideration for this project?
Oh, absolutely,
At the
and they
very
have
least.
been told that budget is obviously, we're fiscally constrained as a county, and we want this, but it's clearly gonna be something that's very contingent upon what we're able to do in the budget. And the committee understands too that as it was published to the vendors, the committee is going to provide you a rank order. They're gonna say, firm XYZ provides the best value and solution to the county. Then that's gonna come to workshop on the same day, and y'all are going to say, yeah, we like that, but we like it at this level, not this level. So there's gonna be options even after the committee makes that rank order to you to ensure you can fit it into your budget.
Thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think it's important for the public to know that this is a really cool process that we're going through, and it gives us a smorgasbord of opportunities when it comes to this. This is about as close to design build as you're going to get, and without having to spend a penny, we've got 7 respondents at the table with different variations of ideas, and we're going to be able to pick and choose components. I applaud you guys for what you're doing. I think this is a great opportunity for the citizens.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Julianne. Okay. Any further business for the Port Authority? Any comments? Okay. We'll adjourn the Port Authority meeting, and we'll reconvene the regular Board of County Commission meeting, and we'll move down the presentations. And I'm going to swap A and B, if that's okay. I've mentioned that to Stacy Papel, so I'd like to ask her to come to the podium for the proclamation of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and I will meet you at the podium. I've asked Commissioner Harvey to read a brief segue into before we read the proclamation. So
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Harvey.
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States Constitution stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties and freedoms and to ensure those unalienable rights to every American. The tradition of celebrating the Constitution was started by the Daughters of the American Revolution. In 1955, the Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th to the 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of the Constitution Week. The resolution was later adopted by the U.S. Congress and signed into public law on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The aims of the celebration are to emphasize the citizens' responsibility for protecting and defending the Constitution, inform people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation of our way of life, and to encourage the study of historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1787.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, sir.
Putnam County Proclamation Number 2019-70, declaring September 17th to the 23rd of 2019 as Constitution Week in Putnam County, Florida. Whereas September 17th, 2019 marked the 232nd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and where it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to the magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebration which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas the Public Law 915 guarantees issuing a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore it be proclaimed that the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2019 is hereby declared Constitution Week in Putnam County. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners urges all citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties and remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Duly proclaimed this 10th day of September 2019. Commissioners, I present this proclamation.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. I'm proud to present this to you.
Gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the William Bartram Chapter Regent, Nancy Preston.
Appreciate you for what you're doing and recognizing the Constitution. Thank you. No, I'm just a prospective member.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments at all? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your.
Get a picture?
Yes, we'll get a picture. Thank you for your work.
Gotta have a picture.
Sure.
Made it.
We have some Thursday lunch meetings, and we have some weekend meetings, so that we can include everybody. And absolutely.
We'll be at Barton Frolics.
You have to be a lady.
Mug in hand. Yeah, someone needs to explain.
He can wear a dress.
In the mud, right?
Okay, we'll move to item A, I believe, and we'll ask Quinn Romay and any of his staff that want to come down. And if Sheriff DeLoach, if you want to join us. Colonel Wells. Okay, I've asked Commissioner Goddard to read the proclamation, but I'd like to read an intro before we get to the proclamation. On September 11th, 2001, the American people endured with courage and heroism the worst attack on U.S. soil in the nation's history. Americans across the country came together in remarkable spirit and patriotism, unity, and carried out countless acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion. Community organizers and family members of 9/11 victims began observing the anniversary of September 11th as a charitable service day to honor the memory of those who were lost and those who were united to respond to the tragedy, including law enforcement officers, first responders, and volunteers. Putnam County has many brave men and women serving our county with heroically, tirelessly, and courageously put their own well-being at risk in difficult, stressful, and often dangerous situations. Commissioner Goddard, would you read the proclamation?
I will be honored to. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2019-65. Patriot Day and a day of prayer, service, and remembrance. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, the American people endured with courage and heroism the worst attack on U.S. soil in the nation's history. And whereas in response to this tragedy, Americans across the country came together in a remarkable spirit of patriotism and unity, carried out countless acts of kindness, generosity, compassion, and whereas community organizations, family members of 9/11 victims began observing the anniversary of September 11th as a charitable service day to honor the memory of those who were lost and those who united in response to the tragedy, including law enforcement officers, first responders, and volunteers, and whereas Putnam County has many brave men and women serving our county who heroically, tirelessly, and courageously put their own well-being at risk in difficult, stressful, and often dangerous situations. And whereas the Awakening America Alliance, Cry Out America, has called people to gather for prayer, our historic leaders have called for periods of prayer for our nation, and God has called his people to observe solemn assemblies for generations. And whereas a solemn assembly is a day of restraint where religious and political leaders gather in a serious nature to bring their petitions in prayer to God. And whereas God has promised in the Bible in 2 Chronicles 7:14 through 15, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin. I will heal their land. Now mine eyes shall be open, and mine ears attent into the prayer that is made in this place. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of Commissioners that September 11th is hereby recognized as Patriot Day and a day of prayer, service, and remembrance for the victims of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2011. In Putnam County, and its citizens are called upon to honor the lives and memories of those lost through participation in community service and remembrance ceremonies on this day and throughout the year. Be it further proclaimed that the citizens of Putnam County are urged to show their support and appreciation of our local heroes, including law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, first responders, and volunteers of Putnam County who gave of themselves to protect and serve their communities. Thus proclaimed this 10th day of September 2019. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, got a proper approval or motion by Commissioner Goddard, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's my honor to present this proclamation to you gentlemen.
We certainly appreciate it, and I just want to remind everybody of the services we're having tomorrow morning at 9:30 out in the front parking lot by the flagpole. This is our annual September 11th service. And then at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, there'll be a video and another service at Mount Tabor on St. John's Avenue right there by the college. So we ask everybody to come and just remember the day that we all will never forget.
That's right.
Quinn, if I may, I got something on my calendar for St. James United Methodist as well tomorrow at 11 o'clock. They're having a prayer vigil.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
No, we're not, but we certainly, tomorrow is a solemn day, obviously, with everything that has occurred, and we all remember where we were at that morning when it all began. So, anything we can do to remember, we certainly support.
Chief Romay, out in Interlaken tomorrow morning early, I think it's at 8 o'clock, is a prayer at the caboose also, so.
Okay.
This group, stop talking. 8 o'clock? I think so, yeah. I'll let you hear something different.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard, for that long proclamation. But not a lot of notice. Okay, we'll move down to item 6, public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board will engage in debate or deliberation on matters on which the board has received no prior information. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We have comment cards at the entrance and exit of the building. We prefer you fill those out and give those to our clerk, Sarah Oliver, to my left, to your right, for the record. So do we have any individuals wishing to make public comment? Please come forward. President Pickens.
I think I'm having deja vu.
Good morning. Gentlemen, I have no axe to grind. I'm here at the request of the sheriff because I think the sheriff had some things that he wanted to talk to you about as it related to the Buffalo Bluff railroad crossing. I did promise y'all that I would communicate with you to let you know if the signage had been changed, and when I went by about 5 o'clock yesterday, it had been changed to indicate that the crossing would be closed starting at 8 o'clock. It didn't have any information about when it would reopen. I was here yesterday, so I heard what Mr. Spivey said. Based upon what I heard him say, my wife followed her normal schedule and attempted to cross the railroad at 4:15 a.m., and it was closed. She sat there for about 45 minutes and did not feel comfortable communicating with anyone, and certainly nobody bothered to come over and talk to her and explain to her that it would be open or closed at any particular time. There was also a deputy sheriff who works in another county but lives in Hermit's Cove, who was there with her young child, trying to get across to get to work and get the child to school or daycare. And there was a third car. At about 5 o'clock, Carol gave up and came home and spent about an hour and then went back out about 6 o'clock, and it was still closed. And she waited until about 10 till 7, at which time there were about a dozen cars waiting to get across when they finally opened it, and they were allowed to go by. I told Commissioner Turner when he inquired this morning, as did Mr. Harvey, that I'd let him know the status when I went by about 7:45, and it was closed, but they were opening it for cars to go by, so one lane was open. And so it was passable by vehicles by then. I inquired as to when they would be done, is a word that I used, and the fellow said in about a couple of hours, so about 10 o'clock. So my assumption is they were just going to work until they finished and move on. But at least cars can go back and forth now. I heard the sheriff's comments yesterday that he didn't have any faith in actually the subcontractor doing what was promised on the phone, and frankly, the sheriff was correct. And just a few people relied on the representations of the person from CSX, and those representations, again, unfortunately, the sheriff's prediction proved to be true.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was gonna bring this up under commissioner comments, but seeing as though Mr. Pickens, lit the fire under this pot, I just soon start stirring it. I was the one yesterday that I feel like was trying to give them the opportunity, them being CSX, give them the opportunity to do the right thing and let us trust in their commitment. I feel like that they just waved that off like it didn't mean anything at all and said it was an estimate this morning, I believe were the words that came to me, instead of a commitment. Well, this commissioner didn't take it as an estimate. This commissioner took it as a commitment by CSX to be done by 4 in the morning, or at least open it up till 4 in the morning and possibly come back tonight if they needed to finish, or at least have it opened. It's acceptable to me to have one lane open, and like they did after 7 o'clock or whatever this morning, that's acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to me to tell our citizens that we're going to have that open, or they're going to have that open by 4 o'clock in the morning, and then somebody has to wait there 3 hours or can't make other arrangements, like leave a car on the other side if they need to be at work, or this deputy from another county that needed to be at work, or have their children at a certain place. That's not acceptable to me. And I'm not exactly sure what we need to do about it, but I believe we need to do something. And it's not that they're gonna be done with that one at 10 o'clock this morning. We have several more of them coming up in the next few days. If they're not gonna make this commitment to us, then we need to do something else. And I don't know exactly what that is. I'm gonna defer to legal, or I'm gonna defer to the sheriff to tell me what we need to do. I was told when I talked to Gator about it this morning, or Sheriff DeLoach, I was told that if we go on and do an injunction and we can get a judge to sign off on it, we can put it in there that they can't work except from 8 o'clock in the evening till 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's all there is to it. If they get caught outside of that injunction, he can go arrest them, correct?
The recommendation that I made yesterday was that the county join the sheriff's office and the school district in applying for an injunctive relief, which would prevent them, at the very least, from working during certain hours. As I said yesterday, and as Mr. Pickens said, and Commissioner Turner said, I believe I can speak collectively for the group that we understood the work would be completed, if not completed, but the road would be passable by 4 a.m. this morning to allow vehicular traffic to pass through. Just to reiterate what I'd said yesterday, I had little faith in CSX's ability to keep their word based on some of the past interactions that we've had with them before. And notwithstanding that, Commissioner Turner alluded to this just a few moments ago, there are multiple other crossings in the county that this same type of work will be completed, and at least one of which where there is only one point of ingress and egress. So at this point, I've actually directed my legal advisor to prepare an injunction for protection to be presented to one of the circuit judges and to contemplate that matter before making a decision. And I would ask just to renew my request yesterday that the county join with us in that cause.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Commissioner Ross?
Mr. DeNovo, do we have a right to stop somebody from working on a road that we own?
There's always equitable remedies to address a situation, and I think that's where the sheriff's comes in with regard to public safety, and I think that that obligation, obviously, to ensure public safety also rests with this commission.
My question goes to basically, if we enacted a policy, and not just for CSX, but for people doing work on the roads, or can we control through policy the times that they can open and close the roads and have hard and fast times that they must open them? Is that possible for us to do?
I'm aware, nothing to prevent it.
Okay. I personally think, before jumping to the injunction for relief, that we should enact a policy, because if the county doesn't have anything in place already, it almost, to me, it seems like if I was a judge looking at this, I would say, well, you guys have the opportunity to do this yourselves. So maybe it's something we could do. It doesn't seem like it would take a long time to do, and get a policy in place that before 309 gets touched and heading south down, because my understanding is they're heading through the county on through Crescent City and out, so we can control this from here on out.
I would mention, reiterate what I said yesterday, and that is you already have the authority to institute legal action under 125.01(1)(b). So that embraces injunctive relief like any other relief that you could achieve through a legal process.
But would that be for only this one instance, or would that be in perpetuity?
No, it's plenary authority afforded to the Board of County Commissioners of the respective counties. That's state law.
I'm saying that if we got an injunction for relief, is that for this instance or for 10 years from now?
It would be available anytime you needed it, depending on the circumstances. So and obviously it's, the court is going to consider the factual circumstances of that particular case, but the relief is available to invoke at any point.
Commissioner Turner?
I think the question was, if I understood, and I'm certainly not trying to talk for you, Commissioner Rawls, I think the question was, does it count the crossings they're fixing to do, or all crossings they're gonna do from now till hell freezes over?
Right.
So, does that?
Is this an injunction
We did an
for now only?
injunction, is it an injunction for just the few crossings ahead of us, or forever and ever, whatever do they do in the county? I think that's a valid question.
So the way the injunction would work is the sheriff's office and/or the county, if you choose, would be the petitioner. CSX would be the respondent. And let me be clear, my goal is not to prevent CSX from doing this work, but to spell out in the terms of the injunction the hours under which they can complete this work, so that it doesn't impede the normal flow of traffic and doesn't unduly displace our citizens or limit their access to their homes or medical appointments. I can tell you that whenever I was down in Buffalo Bluff yesterday, I spoke to several elderly residents who had actually made arrangements to stay in motels because they had doctor's appointments in St. Augustine and Jacksonville. And I think that it puts an undue burden on them to have to undertake seeking shelter elsewhere as opposed to in their own home, especially when contemplating that a number of them are on fixed incomes.
I guess the question I would have next would be, are we gonna seek the injunctive release for the ones that only have one ingress and egress, or are we gonna seek them for all the ones in the Putnam County that are fixing to be done, or all the ones from now until the end of time, they have to go by the same thing? And actually, I'm with Commissioner Rawls on this one. I think we should set some kind of policy. I just don't think we have time to set that policy between now and when this is gonna happen.
Sure, and that would be my concern. I think that moving forward, it would be prudent for the board to establish some type of policy specifically with regard to neighborhoods that have one point of ingress and egress. But there is even a public safety concern with some of those intersections that are affected where there may be an alternate route, in that it would significantly increase our response times and potentially put folks' lives and their safety in danger because of the increase in response times, not only from law enforcement, but from emergency services as well.
Having not seen them do this, could they not do it half at the time, close one lane, do that lane, or do the other, and back and forth, or is it?
I can't really.
The timbers they're using,
yeah,
or the
I
material
can't
they're
really
using,
speak
the width
to,
of the road, or?
Speak to the, how they actually go about doing the work. It's not something that I've ever had any experience with. My belief is, and I'm certainly a layman when it comes to railroad construction, but my belief is that they likely have the ability to do one side at a time. And certainly that's something that we would contemplate whenever we're crafting the motion for the injunction.
So basically, when you're crafting the motion, you're gonna make it state that they can close one side at the time with proper traffic, control, but they can't close the whole thing except during a certain period
Or
of
if
time.
yes, that's correct. Or if they do close the entire crossing, it's only during specified hours.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I could interject here, just because I have concerns on the next one they're gonna do is it's 309. And Quinn, when did you say the sign was put up yesterday afternoon? And all it says is it's gonna be closed at 8 p.m. tonight, right? That's it. It doesn't say when it's gonna open, how long it's gonna be closed. So, and this was just put up. They said yesterday, I heard very clearly there'd be a 2-week notice. So I assume there would be signs up 2 weeks before, notifying people that it would be closed. So I'm afraid there's gonna be a log jam,
I
you
can
know,
tell you that.
Thursday morning at 309.
Sure. I can tell you that in the
17.
past, CSX, whenever they've repaired some of these crossings, as recent as 5 or 6 years ago, that the signs went up 2 weeks in advance, and their policy is to actually go door to door and hand out flyers and notify all the residents that are in the affected area. I can tell you that none of that happened. You just heard President Pickens yesterday tell us that the sign was actually in place 3 days in advance of the closing, and to say the least, the verbiage on the sign was misleading.
What's changed?
I don't know if it has, if it's an issue specifically relating to this contractor, but I go back to my statement that I made yesterday that CSX has a history of not being a good neighbor with Putnam County. And we've had some negative interactions with in the past with them and continue to do so on some other issues.
So back to my original question, if I may. This injunction, if it's put in place, is against CSX only, correct?
Well, we would name CSX and the contractor as
Okay, well, no, but-
respondents in the injunction.
So what if we had somebody that was gonna be, doing some other type of maintenance that required closing a road? Where I'm going with this is I think it's in our best interest, no matter what happens with the injunction, that we establish a policy that gives us the ability to control the opening and closings of roads under our discretion, where we set the rules and they're enforceable. If you get an injunction for relief, how is that enforced?
There are actually criminal terms that are associated with an injunction.
So could we not have that as well as a policy and not, my fear is this, if CSX come back and fights this and says it's disparate treatment, what leg do we stand on then? I'm saying if we have a policy that covers everybody and we don't focus just on CSX, but we look at any other type of contract that might work on one of our roadways.
Sure, so the injunction that we would seek would actually be a petition for injunction based on the emergent nature of this situation here, and it would apply specifically and narrowly to the crossings that they have named that they're going to repair in Putnam County. I don't know that we could place an injunction against CSX or any other entity in perpetuity from doing any other work in the future because of the scope of the work might be different. But I would have to defer to Mr. DeNovo to
I'm not
maybe
opposed,
provide
just
some-
understand,
some
I'm not
legal
opposed to the injunction for this one instance,
Sure.
but I think going forward, we need to get this under control so we don't have this happen again in the
Sure.
future.
Yeah,
My recommendation from a public safety perspective would be for the county to join the sheriff's office and the school district in our petition for the injunction, and then work from this day forward to develop some type of a policy that gives contractors guidance on when they can actually close roads during specified or enumerated hours moving forward.
I just, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to make sure when we write this policy that I'm for, that we include in there that someone can come to the board or come to somebody and ask for a change. And I don't want to make it so restrictive that we can't get the work done.
Certainly, I think there's always
I don't mind them
extenuating
coming in and
circumstances.
asking or whatever, but there needs to be something in there that is not this way and this way only, because I'm not smart enough to sit up here and tell you everything that's gonna happen in the next 30 years in Putnam County. So, so when do you think you're gonna have your injunction drafted up, Sheriff?
I can tell you that my legal counsel, Mr. Sharp, already has a rough draft of the injunction. So we'll be prepared to present it to one of the circuit judges as early early this afternoon.
We look
Okay.
at that at workshop?
Does that injunction that has been prepared include the discussions that we've had here this morning?
Not at this point,
Or is
but
it, I don't mean included, but is that what it says, is what I'm asking? Or does it just say you can't do it and you got to quit and you can't work outside of these hours? I mean, I want to be on your side, but I'd like to know what I'm signing. I don't want to sign a blank sheet of paper. I'd like to at least have an idea of what you're asking.
sure, no, and I would defer to Mr. DeNovo and Mr. Sharp and ask that they work together collectively to craft the language of the injunction, specifically regarding your concerns that I talked about just a few moments ago about the hours the work can be completed and/or allowing access through one lane of travel. That's our intent.
Okay.
Can we look at it during workshop?
Mr. DeNovo, did you want to?
Yes, I just had one question for the sheriff. There's a specific statute that prescribes notice, and I'll read it to you. It's section 336.048 Florida statutes. It says, whenever any road on the county, when any road on the county road or city street system is repaired, reconstructed, or otherwise altered in a manner that necessitates the closing of one or more traveling lanes of the road for a period of time exceeding 2 hours, the party performing such work shall give notice to the appropriate law enforcement agency within whose jurisdiction such road is located prior to commencing work on the project. However, when the closing of one or more lanes is required because of emergency conditions, such a notice shall be waived. Sheriff, did you receive this notice in advance of the work that was conducted on this
No,
road?
Mr. DeNovo, I can tell you authoritatively that no such notice came to our office.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's extremely vague. It just says notice. It could have been 60 seconds before, and that constitutes notice. But I think this is part of what we need to address, is putting more teeth in it and more absolution, because, what constitutes notice?
Well, the point is, Commissioner Rawls, is that no notice was given. Okay, and that was my question to the sheriff.
Now, notices were given,
Notices were given.
were given to us.
But not to the sheriff.
There was an email sent out.
There was an email sent out,
There was an email
26th.
sent out, and it just, but didn't, I think Alex, Mr. Sharp read the notice, I guess that you had, correct? When y'all were talking Sunday?
Yes, sir,
You were saying
Mr.
about your
Chairman.
conversation there, and it had no complete closures in there.
That is complete. The notice that was received on August 26th had a list of the closures, and it had nothing in that notification, their PSA, of any closure, complete closure of any streets within the project scope for anything in South Putnam. We did have a conversation, or let me rephrase, I had a conversation on Saturday with the subcontractor who is listed as a point of contact for this project. I had a conversation of postponing it due to the lack of notification. We heard Mr. Spivey yesterday very clearly state that their normal process is to notify every single resident, put notification out with signage within 2 weeks. None of that has happened. The request to postpone it and just move the project down the line where we didn't have a single ingress egress was not acceptable. Asked them if they would consider just shutting down one lane at the time. That was not acceptable. The notice that we received on September 5th was the first time we received notice that the lanes were going to be completely shut down. Okay, so we started as soon as we found out of trying to come up with a solution to this problem, working through the contractor of record for CSX, and we haven't been able to get a resolution to date.
Commissioner Turner?
I concede all that. I agree. They didn't keep up their word. I'm ready to move forward. Is there any way that we could do a time certain today that the attorney's gonna be done, where we could have some kind of a rough overview of the draft of what it's gonna say, or would y'all rather not do that, or what are we doing? I mean, we got a workshop at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Is that too late in the day?
I think that prudency would dictate that time is of the essence here, and the sooner that we can get this before circuit judge, the better off we'll be.
Okay, so, 11 o'clock, is that too early?
You're gonna have to give me a little more time than that, Commissioner.
Why ain't you already done it? I'm just kidding with you.
He's sitting right there.
You've thrown in, Alex Sharp, General Counsel, Sheriff's Office, you've thrown in a lot of provisions that we certainly can include in that. And I'd like to also be able to discuss with Mr. DeNovo, any other, things that we need to put in there, off the scope of, what we're asking and so forth. But I can tell you that we could probably have it by, your workshop, a rough draft of it for you to approve or disapprove of any of the.
Well, I would appreciate it. I'm willing to sign on and support the Sheriff's Department School Board. I think that we gave CSX the opportunity to be a good neighbor, and they declined by saying that it was not a commitment but an estimate. It's not what I heard yesterday. I heard it was a commitment, or I took it wrong. I don't know.
They were very clear.
That was my
I thought it
understanding
was
as
very
well.
clear.
that
I heard that it was a commitment,
4
they would
o'clock
do
was
that, and they
was a
just
time
basically
certain that work would
thumb their
be-
nose
would
at
be
it, so.
completed.
Yes, I am ready to sign on the injunction, but I think in prudency, I just need to at least see a draft of where we're going or something. And then I'd feel more comfortable about it, but I'm ready to sign on.
I concur.
Okay, so you can have it ready for the 2 o'clock workshop. We can fit that in, I believe. Administrator Suggs, would that be?
If we have a document, I'll make sure it gets fit onto the agenda, and we'll do it first thing.
Can I ask one more question?
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Have y'all even talked to a judge to see if this is gonna be approved?
I think that it would be inappropriate for us to
Okay.
Preemptively have a conversation with the judge prior to placing that document in their hands. So no, we have not had a conversation with the judge.
Okay.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff, for this. Help me understand that yesterday it was the board that was going to do this, but today it's you, the Sheriff's Department, and the school board. Has the school board met yet to determine if they're going to do that?
I've talked with the superintendent,
But
and
has
he
the
has
school board
agreed
met?
to. I don't know. I don't regularly attend their meetings, and it's entirely up to the board. You know, this is something that, as a constitutionally elected officer, I have the ability to do on my own. I'm asking the board to join us in this cause because of the number of residents that are affected by it.
No, I agree, and I concur. I support that. I just think that there could be some liability issues facing us. I'd rather get Mr. Spivey on the phone right now in a public meeting and say, this is what you said yesterday. Our intent is to go forward with this. Now, tell me what the difference is.
Well, I can tell you that we have exercised our due diligence. I feel like with CSX, Mr. Sharp spent innumerable hours over the weekend conversing back and forth with CSX's legal counsel to come up with some sort of an amicable resolution for both parties, and we're still not there.
Okay. One last thing, and you might not know this, is our circuit court the proper court? Because
Yes.
my research says it's the U.S. District Court.
No, it would be the circuit court.
Okay.
Okay, so you bring it back to our 2 o'clock workshop then, is that correct? Okay, look at it and hopefully move forward with it. Mr. Turner?
If something happens that you get it done by 1:30, could you email it to us and let us take a look at it, where it's basically to walking in and saying, okay, I've read it, I'm okay with it, or whatever the thing may be, and it's a 2-minute thing instead of a 30-minute thing or whatever?
I assure you, Commissioner, it's not going to reflect anything but what's been discussed in here in this conversation right now.
Okay.
And yes, I will do due diligence as fast as I can to get it to you so you can review it.
And that would cover, as of, if the judge signed it this afternoon, that would cover anything going forward having to
this
be
point-
done
from
within
this
those,
point moving
in those
forward.
criteria.
Yes.
I'm good. I think we do need to sign on with you, Sheriff, and as far as getting Mr. Spivey, is that his name? Spivey on the phone, I don't wanna talk to him again.
I don't
I feel
see
like he
that there's
lied
any
to me
need in that,
yesterday,
you
and
know,
I'm not good about that,
Sure.
so I don't need to speak to him again. I think we just need to move forward, Mr. Chairman.
Do too. Okay, so we'll move it to the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff Deloach.
That was a little longer than 3 minutes, wasn't it?
Okay, next public comment, Mr. Douglas Hayes. Please come forward and state your name and address, and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
And just 'cause my timer's busted doesn't mean I'm not paying attention, Douglas.
I'll do my best. My name is Douglas Hayes. I'm at 216 Hilltop Road, Satsuma. Candidate for County Commissioner, District 3. Gotta get that free ad in while I can. What I'd like to address right off the bat is an accountability for something. The marijuana medical dispensaries. I'm finding out that we have several people that have been prescribed that, and they're having to leave county to get their prescriptions filled. I personally have been drug and alcohol free for over 10 years, so it's not an ulterior motive. But at the same time is that it's a potential revenue draw for the county. I'd also like to propose that in the surrounding cities and communities that they do civil citation for low-level possession of marijuana, which may actually keep from the overcrowding of our jail. Not counting that poor choice of that individual, it could affect their employability and their education and a lot of stuff for making poor choices when it looks like a social trend that marijuana may be legal someday. The other thing is that would be a potential revenue draw in the civil matter, and in turn could be used for rehabilitation. The other thing is that if you look at the opiate epidemic that we have, and which is now soiree to a methamphetamine, that what they do as a replacement treatment is methadone. Now, to explain that my personal choices, when you run with idiots, you're an idiot. Well, I'll tell you, I ran with some idiots. And in my travels in life, I've discovered that alcohol is the gateway drug to stupid behaviors, to going to other harder drugs. Where if somebody that instead of doing methadone may be prescribed legally to consume marijuana, they may stay away from alcohol and other drugs and be emotionally addicted versus physically addicted to a drug. The next thing is I'd like to present to you in regards to animal control. I have discovered that there's a methodology for revenue draw by having what the surrounding counties have what they call the Friends of, which is a nonprofit organization that's the fundraising arm. We have a Friends of that seems to be providing social media, but it is not a nonprofit organization. I do believe it may be one or two individuals that are devoted to the concerns of the animal control. I have heard through the grapevine that there is an organization that's trying to get together to be a funding mechanism, but I think we need to get all on the same page. They hijacked the name and invite them to the program of creating a nonprofit so that we'd have a funding mechanism for our animal control. Not counting that there seems to be a name issue. Animal services, animal control, what are we? And it seems like the going trend now is animal services and rescue, if you look at the surrounding counties. So when you start creating some legislation in regards to possibly legislating a no-kill shelter is also to change the name and label your vehicles, which is not such a brown shirt type behavior as animal services and rescue. Look at the city of Palatka. It seems to be more user-friendly. The next thing
Mr. Hayes,
is...
if you could wrap it up, please.
Okay.
If you would.
Well, I tried to do 1 minute at a time, but I'll be quick. Okay. The next thing is an accountability for what they call in the world, it's called the pigeon drop, okay, where everybody puts their money in a bag and it's perpetuating an idea. Well, we had a gentleman come in and apparently the city and the county for the revitalization of Palaca and gave the man $20,000 plus a $10,000 expense fee. What has taken place lately? Other than a flash in the pan, they re-gardened and apparently had some type of small business contest, but I don't see anything taking place. And where the pigeon drop comes about is that you get a flash in the pan and you're quote unquote left holding the bag. What I would like to recommend is a starting point, which is our website. I've been saying this for over 4 years now. It is pathetic. There are standards that could be met. The other thing is that when the traveler is coming through and they hit Putnam County, it seems to me that you see the jail log first and or the tax appraiser's office, which is not really marketable. There is a methodology
Mr.
when you do search engine optimization.
30 seconds.
Okay. You can, one is you need to title all your web pages. You can use a backlink method and also an anchor text, and that might manipulate where the clicks and where you fall on the search engine. Also, there's no meta crawlers, which even though they are not necessarily standard, what they call meta tags, but the broad-based like DuckDuckGo uses meta crawlers. And that, once again, if we have the proper meta tags, that'll bump us up on the top of the list. Thank you very much. I had one more, but that's all right. I'll catch you next time. God bless.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank
if
you,
I
Mr.
might.
Hayes. Okay. Commissioner
Mr.
Ross?
Hayes, I think, you know, I said this last time you were here. I applaud your enthusiasm. I think you do a lot of great research, and you really do have a lot to offer the conversation. If you would work with the Animal Services Committee, that's our advisory committee. So if you would work with them, share your ideas. That's the ones that are really going to have to bring it before us to have a meaningful conversation. But I think that's your in would be to sort of attend those meetings and participate in those.
Well, actually, when you were looking for members of the advisory board, it was actually stated that I was the only one that had signed up for an advisory board. But apparently, the person that decided to choose picked somebody out of their buddy club.
You can still go.
Okay, we don't need to get into that part of it, Mr.
Okay,
Hayes.
but when all said and done is
I attend them, and I'm not a member of the committee. So you're as a public member, you are allowed to go, and you can have all the input you want there. But I think that'd be a better avenue for you, to be honest with you. And then let them hear your ideas. You got some wonderful ideas, but I think it needs to start there.
And those meetings are posted, and you're more than welcome to attend those. And I believe you're probably going to say that they're at 9 a.m. in the morning, and that was by the choice of the committee members themselves. Is that correct?
Yes.
I think that's correct, so we can't
They can meet
change
anytime
that.
they want.
Okay, but you're more than welcome to attend.
Okay.
All right, sir, thank you.
If there was a contact method for the advisory, whoever it is that's sort of like the grand poobah of it, then that way I could maybe find out as to why it's 9 o'clock to see if there's a way that there would be a consensus that they would adjust it so that the working class and general public might be more apt to attend.
You'd
so
have
you
to
get
make
a good
that meeting
turnout.
to make that
Yeah,
statement.
you have to make a meeting and talk to them about it, because they set their own meeting times.
Yeah, I just don't know how to get a hold of them.
Okay, who's you need to get to? It's on the website, but get hold of Lisa Suarez. I'm sure Lisa is there at
Gentleman has a
each
cows
meeting.
out there by the jail. He's the chairman. What's his name?
Mr. Traxler?
Yes, Mr. Traxler is the chairman.
But it's on our website. You can find it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if he would like to contact our office, I'm sure me and Ms. Laura can get him the information that he needs. That way, next time he comes up to the commission, he'll be able to report back to you that he received the information he was seeking.
Okay.
Works for
Okay,
me,
Mr.
thank
Hayes.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. Paul, I see you're in the audience. I know I put you on the spot last time. Do you want to say anything else about the Patriot Day tomorrow? Yes, please.
Paul Flato, Battalion Chief, Putnam County Fire Rescue. Sorry I was late. I was on a call, had to ride in with the ambulance to Orange Park, but thank you all for the proclamation, and we'll do, I believe we have a program set up tomorrow to fully recognize and remember the events of 9/11. We ask everybody to try to arrive between 9:30 and 9:45. That way there's nobody driving up when we're trying to do the moment of silence and stuff like that. That way they can also find a seat if they desire. We'll begin at, the honor guard will be coming in, and at 9:59 we'll have a moment of silence. At 10 o'clock we will begin the service. It usually lasts between 30 to 45 minutes. We'll try to get everybody in and out as quickly as possible. However, at that time we'll do a benediction. We do the honor guard presentation of the arms, the flag being lowered, raised and lowered to half staff. We'll have a remembrance address by Commissioner Pickens. And again, it's just for us to not forget. I mean, there's a lot of times that people are scheduling things on 9/11, like my person wanted to come do my air conditioner. I'm like, I got stuff to do that day. People want us to teach CPR today. I'm like, listen, it's 9/11. Oh yeah, we forgot about that. Well, that's what happens when you don't take the time out to remember how our country was changed 18 years ago tomorrow. So we'll be out there tomorrow. We're going to do our best to get it done and honor those that have went before us. And then at noon there'll be a day of prayer, or an hour of prayer at the I don't know if they're going to do it at the gazebo this time. I think they're going to do it at a local church. You need to check with your listings for that. But then in the evening at 6 o'clock, we'll be at Mount Tabor Church recognizing our hometown heroes, those that serve in our county. We'll be recognizing them. I'd like to invite everybody to attend that. I spoke with Reverend Flagg the other day. We have confirmed Ken Amaro will be a guest speaker again. He came last year and gave a really great message. And then we'll have a video montage of some of the events that we've been through this year, and also a 9/11 tribute video. So there's light snacks afterwards. So I'd like to invite everybody here and that can hear us online and whatever to please attend. It's a great service. It's a great way to honor those before us and those that are serving today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Before
anything
you
else?
sit down, you might have a question, but I just want to recognize Paul. Earlier in the meeting, we did recognize all the staff that were here and constitutional officers. Just thank them for all their efforts during the hurricane preparedness. And Paul was one of the busiest persons out there with the public information. I think he was on the go 24 hours a day. But,
Well, I tried. But I had help. I mean, honestly,
working
this
with
year
the sheriff's office and the school system also. So it was really a well-organized effort, and I just appreciate everything that you did.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and thanks for the opportunity. And the sheriff's office and the school board, I mean, we really worked together great, and it really was a good unified team effort. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, we'll move down to item number 7, the consent agenda. Any items, any commissioners wishing to pull, and I will make the announcement that staff wishes to pull item G. So item G will be pulled for a later meeting. So we'll start with Commissioner Harvey. Any items you wish to pull?
I have none, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I have none.
Commissioner Goddard?
I have none.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
I'd like to discuss item H.
H?
That's a good one.
What?
That's a good one.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, and F?
So moved.
Okay, we've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item 8, Commissioner Rawls.
All right, so the money that we're spending on St. John's Avenue, do we own that part of St. John's, or is that in the city?
I think,
Like it's St. John's down to from Palm Avenue to CSX rail crossing, Mike?
It's from 11th Street or 12th Street technically.
My understanding, it comes in and out of the city a few times, so I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I believe it goes in and out of the city through several locations, and I believe by interlocal agreement it is ours to maintain.
That is correct.
Is there going to be any utility work done? My understanding is the city's looking at doing utility work in that area, especially by Hudson Avenue. So
We will coordinate with them. We have been in communication with Jonathan Griffin with Public Works with the city of Palatka. There are some things they will take care of before this work proceeds.
my concern is with the issues they ran into on 9th Street. They had a lot of unforeseen conditions. That's a major road through the city of Palaca, and it's going to impact a lot of people. Has there been any conversation about the utilities that are in there now and the condition they might be in and what they're going to do to mitigate that if they start?
Again, we've been in communication with them. There's some minor work that needs to be done on their end, nothing that should slow this project down.
Okay.
No major utility infrastructure like you're seeing in the other locations
Okay.
is anticipated.
Because that's been the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, we have been in communication with them. They are aware of this grant, and the work will be proceeding forward. We do not intend to put this pavement down and tear it up like the other areas.
Okay,
So.
that's my fear.
All right, Commissioner Turner?
I didn't have anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Him waving at you over
Okay.
over my shoulder.
Mr. Nimitz, has there been any conversation with the city of Palaca in case there is any overruns that they can participate in? Because it is going in and out of the city quite a bit, so.
We have not approached that with them, but we will in the event
I
that
think
it's
that, yeah, I think
anticipated.
that conversation
Absolutely.
should happen, so.
But we're pretty confident with the estimate that was put
I got
together
it.
for this application.
And it's badly needed, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Badly needed, so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you,
Mr.
Mike.
Chairman,
Mr.
I
Nimitz?
move approval for item H on our consent agenda.
Second.
They've got a proper motion to approve item H by Commissioner Harvey and a second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mike Brown, we have a 10 a.m. Public hearing for planning and development. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Mike Brown.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Brown, Planning and Development Services. Item SM 19-001 is a small-scale land use amendment. As you are aware, a small-scale land use amendment, this only requires one hearing, so this is also the adoption hearing. The applicants are Dustin and Savannah Shirley, and this, as I indicated, a small-scale land use map amendment to change a 5.21 acre parcel from Ag 2 to rural residential. The zoning of the parcel is agriculture, and the parcel is located at 820 State Road 26 in Melrose, Florida. There is a aerial showing the outline of the parcel. Zoning, as I indicated, is ag, and you'll notice there's R2 zoning just north of it. Future land use is ag 2, and the proposed is to go to rural residential. Just a little background and analysis. The existing future land use of ag 2 allows for a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres. The subject parcel was created via recorded deed back in 2002. However, during that the creation did not go through the appropriate subdivision procedures in place for the county at that time. Had it, the county would have required the land use change at that point. And that's not unique. That happens in Putnam County. And the resulting 5.21 acre parcel does not meet the density for the land use. So thus, the request for the change is to allow for this parcel to be developed with a single-family residence, and the request to go to rural residential. Rural residential is primarily a residential land use category, which is compatible with the development and nature of development in that area of the county. The maximum density allowed in rural residential is 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres. This area of the county does consist of a mix of residential uses and ag uses. Many of the parcels surrounding the area have been divided to smaller than the 20 acres. A lot of that was done prior to the comp plan, and thus those parcels that were created prior to the adoption of the comp plan can continue to develop. In addition, the county has, back in 1997, vested that subdivision just north of this, which was R2. So the request to change this to rural residential is compatible, staff believes is compatible with what we're seeing out there. Just as an aside, as we're going through the comp plan update, this is an area that staff has identified to look at for maybe reconsider of the overall land use in that area. So in conclusion, staff finds that the request to go to rural residential meets the locational requirements as set forth in policy A1934 of the comp plan. Staff believes that the rural residential future land use is compatible with the surrounding uses and how the area of that area of the county has been developing. The change is consistent with other goals, objectives, and policies of the comp plan, and staff recommends approval of the request to amend the future land use map from Ag 2 to rural residential for this parcel. Any further questions of staff?
Okay, any questions of staff? Okay, no questions of staff? Okay, is the applicant here? Okay, you wish to make any comments? Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, so I open up the public comment portion. Any individuals wishing to speak for or against this particular amendment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that portion. And what's the pleasure of this board?
I move for approval.
A second.
Okay, we got a proper motion to approve SM 19001 by Commissioner Goddard and a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
does the motion, well, Lawyer Joe's got his head stuck in his ear. Does the motion have to read like it would if it came from the Planning Commission, that the actual motion needs to state that finding it consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, that moves approval? Or does it just say move approval and we're good enough? It used to be when I was on the Planning Commission, our attorney at that time said that you had to state why you were doing it, not just that you were doing it. And that was back before, when it was quasi-judicial, not a recommendation like it is now. Well, this hearing today is quasi-judicial that we're going through right now. So would we need to state that as part of it or not?
If you wish to state it, I don't think, it's actually, the comp plan amendment is a legislative change, so, you know, the motion is going to embrace anything that was presented to you at this, you know, at this hearing, so, I think it's adequate, just as, you know, make the motion for approval. However, if you would, you know, in an overabundance of caution, if you want to, you know, amend your motion to state it that as follows.
I'm good either way. I'm just trying to make sure we're doing it correctly.
Okay, so we're okay? Okay, so we're a proper motion on the floor by Commissioner Goddard and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls.
Let's want to make a motion.
Okay, you want to rescind your
for
first motion?
approval. Well, we'll rescind the first one.
Okay, you want to rescind the second?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, make a motion for approval based on small-scale future land use amendment from agricultural A2 to rural residential SM 19-001.
Second.
Okay, so we got a proper motion by Commissioner Goddard, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, okay.
May
Commissioner
I have
Harvey?
a little latitude on something?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't really affect this case, but Mr. Brown, on page 94 of our agenda, on the second paragraph, you put a statement in there that says spot zoning is not illegal. And I've always been told since I was here that spot zoning was illegal. But your next statement said, but it's frowned upon. So I think before we go out and tell people it's illegal, I need a little clarification from you.
The big test really comes to compatibility with what's going on out there. I mean, you know, that's why spot zoning is frowned upon. I mean, there's nothing, I'll defer to the county attorney, but I can find nothing that says it's illegal to spot zone. But the issue always comes down to compatibility with the surrounding uses.
All right, so our statement should be, it's not illegal as long as it's close to being compatible or compatible, is the
Yeah.
answer. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the clarification I need.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Commissioner Ross?
a lot of this stuff's gonna be addressed when we revise the comp
yeah.
plan and the future land use map, so it's gonna put all that to bed, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree.
We're close to it.
Well, there'll always be, if I may, Mr. Chairman, there'll always be questions. I mean, nobody's smart enough to write a comp plan and a land development code that's not.
I thought you were.
No, I'm not gonna even attempt it. But I think he is. But
Okay.
but you're just not gonna miss, you're gonna miss things as
Yeah.
you go. It's just not possible. It's such a massive document that you're fixing here, so, but hopefully when we get done, it'll be a lot better than what it is now.
And we don't wanna have somebody go in and start a pig farm next door to a
We'll
pharmacy.
We'll
that-
build in the safety issues.
Yeah. I think we're on the right track. Congratulations.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Good luck with your project. Okay.
More tax dollars.
Okay, we'll move down to closing comments.
Appointments.
Well, got clerk of court. I know Honorable Tim Smith had to leave. Susan, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
I just would like to publicly thank my staff for the work they did before the hurricane. I don't think most of the departments realize that with the FEMA codes and payroll and how much IT had to help us, we took all weekend to get your payroll out early before the storm, and just thank everybody for their efforts with that. But other than that, that's
Okay, thank you, Susan. Definitely a team effort. Okay, appointments. Any appointments? We'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
I have none.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard,
I have none.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Chase Barnes as a realtor component for the at-large position on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee.
I second.
Okay. Okay, we've got a proper motion and a proper second. Open for discussion. Yeah, I'm sure you contact him.
Had a discussion with him about it,
And
correct?
he would be able to, how often do they meet? They don't meet that often, do they?
Not quite sure, but he had a long conversation with Laura about when they do and when they don't and what happens. And then I had a conversation with him after that, making sure he was,
He can,
he was interested. I know that he was on another committee and ended up getting off of it, but that was when he was in a different occupation than he's in right now. And he explained to me, he felt like he could take the time to do it now that he's changed to being a realtor from a car salesman.
okay, well, good, because I know the young man, and he was highly recommended to me to put on a position to a board, the ZBOA. And I think he's very capable, but I do believe with his occupation back then, it made it hard for him to attend. So I think it's an excellent suggestion, so recommendation, okay. So any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
I have none.
Okay, and I have none also. Okay, we move down to closing comments, and I'm gonna go to our legal counsel, Mr. Joe DeNovo first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what we went through in the last week because, obviously it was quite an experience. And, obviously I'm new to the county, and I was, some people kind of kidded me saying, boy, you really got thrown into the fire right from the very beginning. And to some extent that's true. I'd also like to say that when things like this happen, and you never want them to happen, but they sometimes do, it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And in my case, it afforded me the opportunity to get a better sense of the community and the fine people that I work with. The week at the EOC was pretty intense and pretty demanding. But I gotta just say, in kind of a shout out to all the fine people that I had the opportunity to work with, and what it really reflected on the community, and that goes obviously for the Board of County Commissioners who were there every day helping out, and obviously the great staff that I was able to work with, and all of the constitutionals and the representatives from our cities that we work, and the superintendent, and obviously so many people to mention that enabled that to work. It really was a remarkable thing to witness in terms of how collaboratively everybody worked together to serve the citizens of this great county. And I just wanted to mention also, you know, everybody had a role, and you know, none of this happens just automatically. I really want to you know, hats off to Chief Ramey and just making that facility comfortable for the people that have to do the work that needed to be done, and arranging particularly the folks that fed us, including Commissioner Rawls, Commissioner Harvey, and just the people that you know, are the kind of the unsung heroes. I mean, you know, you pack that many people into a small building, just keeping the place clean. The unsung heroes in terms of our cleaning staff to make sure that it was a place that people could work comfortably and do the work that they needed to do. But it was really a window, I think, on a community that you don't normally experience, certainly not this soon. And it was a crash course in getting to know the county, and I just couldn't come away more impressed. I'm just was really very, very impressed with both the ability of the people that were delivering these services and their commitment to serve the citizens of this county, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for those comments. And yeah, welcome to Putnam County. When
all
Commissioner
downhill
Goddard,
from here.
Commissioner Goddard and I got elected 3 years ago, we inherited Matthew, and then we went through Irma, and Commissioner Turner was appointed, and then what? 30 days later, and that's when Irma hit, and then now we went through
eight or 9 days later.
and then, so welcome Commissioner Rawls with Darien. So anyway, it looks like, unfortunately, it's a pattern we're going to be in for a while. So we'll move down to the county administrator comments, and before he starts, and I specifically want to hold you for last, but I just want to say as chairman, I really couldn't remember back a year ago. I thought that you were our county administrator when we went through Irma, but you were not. You were in transition from the city to the county. But I just want to say, as your chairman, I think I can speak for all the staff, all the employees, the county commissioners, of your leadership there. Terry, I believe you were there probably almost 24/7. I think you had to leave every once in a while, if nothing else, to go see your wife. She was there also for a period of time, or maybe to hug your dog or something like that, just to get away. But I was extremely impressed with your leadership, and then all the coordination with all the different departments and staff. So I will turn it over to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to save my comments on the activation of the EOC for last. I got a couple others I'd like to talk about first. One is that we were challenged to put a site selection committee together for our animal control facility. I'd like to go ahead and let you know that I've got 3 names that I'd like to go ahead and get ratified here today. One of those being Lisa Suarez, of course, John Sammons, and Miss Jeannie Oakwood, who contacted me shortly thereafter, willing to sit on this site committee. I'd like to go ahead and get that active and get that moving so we can get that project off the ground as soon as possible.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I would also want to make sure that we reached out to the chairman of the board of the Animal Control or the Animal Services Committee and asked him if he's interested in serving on that thing.
Would that be Mr. Traxler?
That would be Mr. Traxler. I think Mr. Traxler, I don't see Lisa here today, but I think Mr. Traxler
Yes,
is
it
the
is.
chairman.
Yeah, Jeff said it.
And I think it would be a disservice if we didn't ask him to be on that committee.
That's perfectly fine. I want to get that going. I
Okay,
think
well,
it's
Mr.
imperative
Chairman,
that
I
we get
move
moving
that
on
we
that.
nominate the 3 and Mr. Traxler, if he agrees to serve, to the site selection committee.
Okay, we've got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you. Second thing is, I sat through, we were having some telephonic conversations back and forth, me, Mayor Hill, who's here now. I asked Mayor Hill if he'd like to join us today for some comments. With Greg Francis, he's an attorney that the city has entered into an agreement with to represent the city in this lawsuit moving forward with issues related to the opioid crisis that we're having here in Putnam County. Of course, before we could have a sit-down conversation with Mr. Francis himself, Dorian hit, so we were locked in the EOC for a while. I went Friday evening to the special called City Commission meeting and listened to the presentation from staff as well as Mr. Francis and the comments made by City Attorney Mr. Holmes. And I think it's a conversation we need to have here. With your indulgence, I asked Mr. Francis if he could join us today. Our 2 o'clock session looked like we might have time to at least hear some further comments on this issue of how we might want to look at a way that we can get involved with this, and whatever dollars that we may recoup on this issue for Putnam County, utilize this for programs to assist our citizens that are having a battle with this epidemic. And if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, if the mayor has anything he'd like to add to that conversation, I think that would be appropriate at this time, but it's a serious issue, one that we need to take serious, and I think it's one that we need to at least hear what we can and see what we can do for our citizens on it.
Okay, I agree. Mayor Hill, welcome.
Good morning. Terrell Hill, City of Palaca. I wholeheartedly agree with what Mr. Suggs just, with the sentiments that he's echoed. The city just reached we just entered into a contingency fee agreement with the consortium that includes Osborne and Francis Law Firm. They also represent Orange County, among other places throughout. They've got various municipalities and counties throughout the state of Florida that they've been representing as it relates to opioid recovery. Also, if you recall, the state of Florida entered into an RFP as well for recovery as it relates to opioid addiction and those matters. In Putnam County, one of the most critical things we have to look at is the fact that in our small county, we've probably been hit the hardest when you look at a per capita standpoint of what goes on. And there's truly an epidemic here. There are resources that have been expended by both emergency services, the sheriff's office, as well as through medical facilities and other areas throughout this county. And I think it's incumbent upon us to look at these opportunities as ways to recover those resources, particularly since it comes from the standpoint of a contingency fee agreement in which we only pay if there's a recovery. So it doesn't cost us anything. We've looked at it from the standpoint of procurement as to whether it violates any policies that we have in place in the contingency agreement. Based upon everything that we've looked at from the city side, there's no need for an RFP. The other thing you got to look at is time is of the essence as it relates to these cases at this point. There's already been a reduction in class in one portion of it, a 15% reduction on recovery based upon the people who are already in those lawsuits early on. I just spoke to St. Johns County. They've already filed their complaint. So as it relates to Putnam County, we're behind the 8 ball in so many ways as things go on. And so time is of the essence. We think there's going to be another push. There's already been a $585 million settlement based on a trial in Oklahoma. And so it's the perfect time for us to go ahead and move forward and be proactive in these stances as opposed to being left behind like so many other communities are. And so that's what we have as it relates to that.
I have a question.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Hill. Commissioner Rawls?
There was a settlement offer of between $10 and $12 billion by the family that owns the pharmaceutical company that manufactured OxyContin. It was in the news about a week and a half ago. Would this be part of that as well, or is it only on the $585 million?
There are multiple manufacturers that are included in this. So the attack is going to be, for lack of any other term, the complaint would be filed against various entities, not just one,
Okay.
and it would come through the federal.
So it wouldn't just be Johnson & Johnson, then we'd have to
It
turn
wouldn't
and do it
just be
again
Johnson,
and do it again?
It would be a multitude of manufacturers overall.
Awesome. I personally can't say thank you enough. I think this is a terrific way to go. And serving on the Public Safety Committee, we discuss this every month and how it impacts our community. Our our job performance is affected by it. We don't have an in-county treatment facility for our folks that do have addiction issues, so this would, I think it'd be terrific.
I agree.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, do you think it would be prudent for us to invite the rest of the municipalities in Putnam County and show a firm foundation and standing that we're all together in this at one time?
I think it's a necessary thing to do. I would say that I think more so than anything else, the county needs to move expeditiously as it relates to this particular matter, because the greatest amount of recovery is going to come from the county itself.
Sure.
When you look at the impacts overall, most of your emergency services and things of that nature that are associated with the smaller municipalities are services that are provided by the county, by the sheriff's office, by emergency medical and things of that nature. And so that's why I think it's more prudent that the county actually take those steps. And if the municipalities want to join in, that's fine.
Good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, before I get a chance to leave, if I can just have one more comment. It's off topic as it relates to this. It's off topic of this, but I just wanted to make sure that I would be remiss if I didn't thank this county commission, as well as the leadership of Terry Suggs, Ryan Simpson, and Quinn Romay for the work that you guys did during the hurricane incident associated with Dorian. The things that went on during that 6-day activation period were exactly what Putnam Strong is all about. I'm extremely proud to be a part of this team. The municipalities participated, governmental agencies, federal, state agencies participated, and I think this is a great showing of what Putnam Strong is all about. And kudos to all of you. Kudos to the leadership of Terry Suggs, Quinn Romay, and Ryan Simpson. You did a great job. And so I just want to thank you, as well as all the first responders and public works individuals who worked, and staff who came there and worked tirelessly during that period of time. We were blessed that we did not get hit the way we thought we would, but we were ready. And we were prepared, and the message was sent to our citizens, and it was one unified message. And as long as we remain unified, we will be prosperous. So that's what I just wanted to say to you guys. And again, thank you for letting me speak.
And Mayor Hill, thank you for your presence there, and your city commissioners were also there for many of the updates and gave their input, so I appreciate that too. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can go ahead for my last comment here this morning, if I could, I need you to indulge me for just a minute. We'll get out here as fast as we can. But I'd like to have all the staff that is here today to join me at the podium, if you would, please. That includes you, Mr. Reynolds, and you, Mr. DeNovo, and you folks down here. Absolutely. We want to kind of give a really quick update as to where we stand with Hurricane Dorian, if we could.
And commissioners, if they come down, let's stand up and give them a standing ovation from their commissioners.
Y'all gonna have to double up. Julie, you need to be out front.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to take the opportunity, if I could, just because it's important to do these things. They've all heard the accolades from you folks. Susan, you need to join us, please. Let me tell you, Susan, these folks would not be smiling today if you hadn't done what you did to get payroll out. So, no, just we held a real quick meeting on Friday afternoon to discuss some of the things that happened during Hurricane Dorian, a hot wash, if you will. We do plan on doing a follow-up meeting where we'll invite the commissioners to come in and let's talk. I just want to say a few things, if I could, and I'm not going to hopefully offend anybody here. I'm going to point a couple folks out, but everybody here had a very significant role to play, and they did their job, and they did it well. The citizens of Putnam County is in great hands with the staff that you see behind you and the staff that they represent. A couple things that we noticed, and I appreciate Mayor Hill being here today to talk about it, was the amount of representation at the EOC by not just you 5 elected officials, but the municipalities. It was great. We had, when you talk about local leaders, we had someone from every municipality, I believe, there at some point in time. You also had your state representative, Bobby Payne, that attended several of the meetings and was offering assistance. You had Congressman Yoho's office on the phone with us on several occasions, seeing what it was that we needed. So we had great representation and leadership at the EOC. But what you also had was you had a collective and a collegial working environment between those that needed to get the information out. Our PIO office, the sheriff's office, the school board. Not only were they sending out information via print media, social media, they were doing videos and posting videos to the website, trying to keep up with as much information and keeping our citizens as informed as possible during the whole event. As we know, it was an ever-changing storm, so it was an ever-changing event, and they did a wonderful job with doing that. Yeah, the EOC was activated for 8 days. And we have 484 documented calls into the EOC from our residents. So a lot of information was being given out by some of the folks that you see standing here today. We had 161 local missions and resources that were requested within the county. We had 31 state missions and resources. We had 486 folks that actually ended up in our shelters once it was imminent that we needed to go ahead and do the evacuation. So we had all of that going on at the same time. We had the special needs shelters where we had to coordinate transportation for those folks. Ride Solutions did an excellent job representing Putnam County during this event. But more though than anything else, I think Ryan Simpson did a great job. I think Ryan stepped up when needed to. You never kind of understand or know how someone's going to respond until they're put into a situation. I think Quinn Romay has done a great job with the EOC over the years, and I think we're transitioning from Quinn's leadership into Ryan's leadership. And I want to personally say here today, I think Ryan did a great job. Yeah. So, you 5 commissioners showed up every day. Some of you cooked meals. You're there for communications. You're there for big decisions to be made. As your county administrator and the leader of this team, I want to tell you how important that is to me. We didn't miss a beat. And our citizens need to understand that you folks dedicated your time as well as staff to be there to make sure that we were doing the right things that we needed to do for their benefit. So congratulations, and thank you 5 as well. We will follow this up later on when we have an opportunity to sit down and digest what it is that we just went through. We want to look at the things that we did well. There's always things that we can do better, and I will tell you one of the things that we can do better is we need to be able to communicate with our staff that is not present at the EOC of what's happening, what to expect, where we need you. Okay, we need to figure out how we want to do that better. So that's my personal challenge. And Joe DeNovo, he said it best. He stole half of my thunder with his comments, but I want to say this about Lawyer Joe, as he's affectionately known by some of us here. Joe was a machine. Joe had an office set up, and when you walk by that office, Joe DeNovo's head was down. He was working, okay? But one thing you always learn during these times is how someone's going to respond. I will tell you, be careful. Joe DeNovo has a sense of humor. But no, you did great, Joe, and I appreciate it. Julianne going through making sure we followed our procurement policy.
Where's Julianne? Oh, I'm sorry.
Stand up.
Hid behind the podium.
Okay.
Not good. Bob Stender is.
You have all day with me.
Bob Stender and his IT staff, they were there nonstop making sure whatever issues came up, they were able to fix it, take care of it, and keep us moving. The library staff, manning the call station, then everybody in the ESF functions. I will say that it was a good thing to be able to sit there and see everybody that was performing their duties and performing them well. That goes back to being trained well, being involved, and knowing what their function was. And that's the dedication to these folks that are standing behind me today, and those that aren't here that are actually out working today in their normal jobs. So again, I want to say personally to my staff, thank you all for everything that you did while we were there, for making my job a whole lot easier, and for you 5 for being there to assist when we needed to collaborate and make big decisions. Thank you very much, and our citizens should be proud of the work that you 5 are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Quinn, would you like to say anything? Ryan, we can't thank you enough. We just really saw a leadership role that you took over, and we greatly appreciate it, okay? Everybody. And also be remiss with the Putnam County school system with Dr. Rick Surrency and Thomas Boland were there. Every time I was there, making decisions with us for the school system, with the shelters, whether to open them or when to open them and those type things, and to make sure all their staff was alerted on any of the changes with the hurricane. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll go to closing comments by commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
Just to kind of piggyback on what's been said for the past few minutes, this is my first experience at the EOC during an event, and it was really humbling to be able to come in and take a position and watch everybody working. Kudos to Ryan Simpson. It's really strange when you have as much bravado and testosterone in that building as you do, and decision makers, and we're not the ones making the heavy decisions at that point. We're just there to support, encourage, and make decisions from the background. And I think Ryan did a great job stepping up. It was really neat watching him work and taking control of a room full of decision makers and keeping us rounded up. So my hat's off to you, sir. And I missed a great opportunity last night in Boswick. We had a town hall meeting last night. I think there was some miscommunication, but that was supposed to be our sanctioned town hall meeting. But it went well. Got to hear some same concerns, ditches, culverts, and all that, roads. I actually had a lot of fun last week at the EOC. Wouldn't want to do it every week, but definitely a lot of work.
Not at all. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Goddard?
Okay, sorry, we did not know about that meeting.
That was Boswick, yep.
We even discussed it.
Yep, it was our last meeting, we said the 9th of September and 12th was the pardon.
Okay. Sorry.
It's all good.
All right, yeah, well, I mean, there's not a whole lot that can be said that's already been said. Ryan, fortunate or unfortunately, we've been through hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and I have watched you grow stronger and better. You were awesome. You were just awesome. All I can say. The one group that doesn't really get the kudos is the school board. No one really knows all the stuff they have to do to get those schools ready, to put people in. Also, the coordination with Ride Solution to get those special needs people there and out when the time comes. Get them out, get the school back together so they can have class. It's amazing to watch. These people were great, and like Commissioner Rawls was saying, we were there, and we were there to help, and our biggest help, I think, was just cooking and staying out of the way. But it was really something to see. Everybody pulled together. Everybody was awesome. So our preparedness was fantastic. Everybody was great. I also want to bring up on Thursday, we're having at 310, there's discussion of shutting that bridge down. We're going to do some repairs there. So at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, we're going to meet there. Anyone who wants to be there to discuss what's going to happen there. Then that evening is our third town hall meeting that we did know about. The third town hall meeting is going to be at Barden at 6 o'clock at the fire station. And that's other than my normal comment. If you haven't seen Putnam, you need to get out and look at it. It's beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do want to wish Buddy Goddard happy birthday last Saturday. Thank you, Buddy. Didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
39 years and holding.
That's what he says. That's what he said. And I also want to piggyback on something Laura Joe said, and Joe Genova. you know, when you look at the EOC and all the moving parts, you tend not to see the people sometimes cleaning up and doing the work that, and we have a great cleaning staff, and I'll tell you that. But I was very impressed, Ryan, that you don't get upset. You don't get animated like I do. You don't do any of that. You're steady the course, and everybody seems to steady the course with you. And I appreciate your leadership on that. And I do want to say to our cleaning crew, thank you for that, because you really don't realize how much trash you start producing with that many people in that location. Today, there was a funeral for a good friend, former Commissioner Kenny Eubanks. His brother Tommy passed away, and I'd just like to give our sympathies to that. Tommy was a great friend of mine and a good man, and I'll miss him dearly. This coming Thursday, I will not be in Barden. We have a Florida Association of Counties Trust. The insurance board that you put me on will be meeting in Tallahassee Thursday and Friday, so I'll be up there taking care of that. One of the things Attorney Joe said, the learning curve in this business, there is no learning curve. You're thrown in by fire, and we all were thrown in. And you think that you prepare as best you can, and you find out that you have good staff that helps you get through that learning curve, and you prepare for the next one. September 18th at 6 to 8 at Ravine Gardens, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is going to hold a public meeting on the drawdown of Lake Ocklawaha. You might refer to it as a Rodman Reservoir. That is a healthy maintenance drawdown to avoid using major chemicals out there as much as possible. And just want to say this, 21 billion gallons of fresh water, 19 feet above sea level, cleaning the St. Johns River. So avail yourself to September 18th from 6 to 8, and that's an important meeting. And there's one other meeting, I'm going to give you plenty of notice ahead of time. The MSBU meeting out in West Putnam on October 8th at 6 o'clock. We're going to try to revitalize our MSBU committees. These are committees set up by the citizens to run the MSBUs, and that meeting will be held on 10/8. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the lengthy comments, but I do appreciate, and I do want to say, since I still got the microphone, I enjoy working with each one of you. I saw you at your best the other day, and Commissioner Rawls, I didn't know you could cook as well as you could, but we all pitched in and did what we could do, and it was just wonderful to see this board in action and understanding. And it's an honor, I will say this publicly, to serve with each one of you, and I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Turner?
I'd like to join the other commissioners in commending the staff, every one of them, for all the things they did at EOC. I'd like to ask a question, and seeing as though we didn't have a FEMA event, so I guess we got to pick up all the, whatever falls down, we got to pick it up, plus we have to bite off a bigger chunk of this thing than what we would have had if we'd have had a full FEMA event. Last time I talked, which was last week, to Chief Romay, we were at a 75-25, but I don't know if that covers everything or just part of the EOC or what. I need to know, this commissioner needs to know at some point in the not too distant future, because we're in budget talks, how much money do we have to just assume or guess or whatever, is that event gonna cost us? I mean, I need to know, is it $100, $200, $300, $500, $1 million? I mean, I don't think it's near that much, but at some point in the not too distant future, I need some kind of an estimate or something on what's going on.
We can get those numbers for you.
Well,
Matter of fact, I'll
appreciate
get
it,
those numbers
because
for you if we can by 2 o'clock.
5:05 this afternoon, we have a budget hearing that I've got to vote on, and it's gonna be difficult for me to vote on that knowing that it's an unbalanced budget because of this hurricane. So I would appreciate some kind of an estimated cost or whatever, and I understand that it's not budgeted, so it would still be a zero thing we're voting on this afternoon, but we know it's coming, so therefore, if I'm communicating with you at all, in my ramblings, but I need to know that, guys, as close as we can get. I understand it's real fresh.
We can do that. We have some preliminary numbers now that we can hone in on and, cut out what part is ours and what is the municipalities, things of that nature. We can have that number for you.
Well, I would also, if it's possible in this afternoon's workshop, I'd like to have maybe a very short, and please, very short discussion on the types of things that we're gonna have to pay for versus what the state's gonna chip in on. Just not a big, long presentation, a short discussion where, I would just like to know. I would like to know, like, is FEMA still involved at some level? I'm hoping, and so, that hadn't changed, has it, Chief? FEMA's still involved at some level? Oh, just a yes or no, I didn't want a president. Yes, okay, so maybe if we could find out what that is and where they quit and what they're gonna do. I know that we have a bunch of tree limbs around the county that are down on the sides of the road that are, our current way that we're talking about getting them is Waste Pro picking what they can up during their routine things, but they have rules, and I'm not exactly sure what they are, but it's kind of like we'll pick up 4 of them on this site and 3 on that site because they're a little bigger than the ones on the other site. I'm sorry for being facetious, but it seems like it's working to me. So if we've got quite a few of these trees laying on the side of the road all over the place, it may take longer to clean this up, even though it was 5% of the damage we had in Irma than what it took us to clean up Irma. And if that's the case, then I think we need to, we've been talking for about 1.5 years now about getting us one of them trucks like the city's got, where you could send that truck out and pick it up and do whatever. So I guess I was gonna ask this afternoon during the purchasing ordinance discussion, but I'm assuming that the landfill enterprise, it's an enterprise fund, correct? So with it being an enterprise fund, the purchasing ordinance for the county also count for them? In other words, the levels, so.
Absolutely.
If the county found a used one for less than the $65,000 level, then the chairman and the administrator could, well, it's 50 now.
Yeah.
It hadn't changed yet, so I don't know if we can find there. A brand new one's like $250,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm not good for that, but if we could find a pretty good used one for the amount we're gonna be using it, could get it in here and go ahead and get it started cleaning that up, we might wanna consider spending that out of that enterprise fund where we could go ahead and clean up before the new budget year. Just bringing that up for everybody's attention, we probably need to try to get one of them trucks.
I agree.
The
warden is coming.
uh-oh, what did I do wrong? The purchasing warden showed up.
You mentioned purchasing.
Can we get her one of those little stools to stand on when she's at the podium?
He wants to
What, did
clarify
all
the
of you
process.
have coffee this morning? What happened? Just a point of clarity. So, we can make a provision for Mr. Tilton, should he find a piece of equipment up to 50,000 with the commissioner's Pickens and county administrator's signature. You could, if you believe you're not gonna be in the 50 range, which I believe is gonna be hard for him to hit, in talking to him, I think it's gonna be hard for him to hit. You could authorize him by vote for an amount not to exceed. So you could tell him, you have the ability to go shop for XYZ amount not to exceed contingent upon your approval. Then he could go ahead and execute the purchase, and we would bring it back to you after the purchase has been made, but he at least has the authority then to go up to a certain dollar amount.
All right, well, I hate to mention Mr. Tilton, because every time I do, John himself, he calls him the damn teacher's pet. So, with that being said, Jay, do you think by this afternoon would give you enough time to get a ballpark estimate on a decent clamshell truck? Well, if you do, we can discuss it this afternoon. maybe, and go ahead and try to get it in here. Yeah, if you could, I mean, if you can't, because you can't find one in time or get a ballpark figure, I mean, if you find one that's 73 and you think you need 75 to go look for others or whatever, then, you know, maybe we could do that this afternoon and he can go on to see about getting some of this stuff in here and cleaned up, if everybody agrees, so. Anyhow, all right, well, if you can get her done this afternoon, that'd be great. Price on it, ballpark. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I think that'll do me in.
Okay, all right, thank you for your comments, and I appreciate during your comments, you repaired our timer, so it's on now and working for next meeting, so did you see that? Okay.
Hit the table hard enough?
Evidently, I did something.
Just a couple of notes. I just want to echo the sentiments of my commissioners about staff and department heads, everybody that was involved in the planning of the hurricane. And the Lord blessed us. We planned for the worst, and we ended up pretty much getting the best we could out of this. Unfortunately, it did do damage up the coast and in other states, and the poor Bahamas. But we were spared. But I just want to tell you, I was honored to be the chairman, and commissioners, I was honored to be your chairman, and the support that you gave me and all the employees of the county, and I don't think we could have been better prepared. And thank you, Ryan and Quinn, just everybody involved, and I appreciate that. And I also want to recognize, for the first time, I believe Mayor Brett Peterson was able to come up and visit the EOC along with Mayor Joe Svenskala from Pomona Park, and Michael Porath, the chief of police in Willaca, was able to come up, and also Chief Carmen from Crescent City. So now they're aware of the facility that we have, and they were able to see all the pieces working together, and so I think it was just a great thing. So we have a 2 o'clock workshop. We have a 5:05 budget hearing, so I believe I just recessed this meeting until 5:05. Is that correct? Okay, any other further business? Okay, we're recessed until 5:05. Thank you. I'd like to reconvene our Board of County Commission meeting, and we have a 5:05 certain budget hearing. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Papel.
What order do you want to do this in?
I
We
just
have
need
to-
you.
Can you hear me?
I just need you to put whatever on the record you are required to put on the record, because I've already seen the budget.
Okay,
So
well, in your-
whatever you need to read and have part of, that's all I need you to put in. The other commissioners may want more.
I forgot my agenda, so I know there's two different things, correct?
Okay, first, you have to pass the millage rate. Then you have to pass the budget. And
Well, if I'm understanding, Mr. Chairman, if I may, if I'm understanding correctly, basically when it all comes down to it, we're at a balanced budget plus 185,971, and we added a little more money to the contingency fund. That's
Yes,
correct,
sir.
right? So I'm
That's-
reading,
that's the
I'm
short
reading
of
this correctly.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're in better shape than we were when we talked about this last time.
absolutely.
Okay, with that being said, what do you want us to accept the millage rate? What is the millage rate in this budget? Give me a pen, somebody.
95946.
The millage rate is 9.5946 for the countywide millage and 1.1000 for the fire taxing unit.
I know, but I forgot my
forgot
agenda
my
in my
agenda.
office.
Okay, I'm going to give you mine because item number 6, it has to be,
Yeah, I've got a copy of that if y'all want it.
the motion
I got
has
one
to
now,
be read
stole
in its
his.
entirety. 6, A, B, and C, all.
Can you read that?
Yes,
can
I
read
can.
that.
All right, so we need to pass A, B, and C.
And they all have to be read aloud.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move, I'm working on it. I move that A, the fiscal year 2019 and 20 Putnam County countywide operating millage rate of .5946 mills, which is the same as last year's millage rate, but is 3.7% higher than the rollback rate of 9.2489 mills. The fiscal year 2019 and 20 Putnam County non-countywide operating millage for the fire tax unit, multiple services taxing unit of 1.1 mills, which is the same as last year's millage rate. This rate is 3.85% higher than the rollback rate of 1.0592 mills. Together, the aggregate millage rate is 10.5636 mills, which is 3.74% higher than the aggregate rollback rate of 10.1823 mills.
Okay.
The motion.
All right, so we have a proper motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a proper motion on the floor by Commissioner Turner and a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to correct, Mr. Turner said multiple and it's municipal.
I'm sorry, under B, yes.
Yes, just wanted to clean that up for you.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. I've got some questions if I could.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
All right, so where I was going earlier, we're in workshop, I'm trying to get a comfort level of where we are on the, on our self-imposed $4.9 million reserve, as well as our unrestricted reserves.
Yes, sir.
Our reserves after, you're moving 1.1 plus or minus million in to give us a total of what?
The general fund reserves in total in the budget are $8,947,868, which is $165,242 less than the July budget. But it's still,
Okay, so just follow my logic here. So if we take out the 4.9, that leaves us roughly 4.0 unencumbered.
roughly.
Now, there was a list of $900,000 worth of mission-critical needs that was put in front of us that we said we were going to take off the table and let that work its way into the budget next year. So logic dictates that we're going to be at $3.1 million throughout the year as we make these expenditures. Correct? Okay.
If we make those expenditures.
If we make them,
Right.
some of it we may not.
There's some things on that list, but I'm personally not willing to do it all. So yes, they gave
Right,
us
but
a $800,000 wish list, but that doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Right, but I see where you're coming from, so.
Well, then, what I'm trying to do is, I want to drill down and I want to know at the end of this day. Because 2 weeks ago, we were at 2.597, on October the 1st, if we fulfilled this, mission-critical needs list. Understand that we also have, some issues with culverts that we have to fund. Is that money already figured in? Do we have that 100 and
Yes.
whatever?
That was one of the changes.
193.
It was supposed to be like $170,000. We weren't sure if it was going to be that.
Yeah,
And
we
the
budgeted
170 was added to the budget.
Okay.
I know, don't want to interrupt you, but there are some more that I'm sure we will, because I know I have one in District One, also that we've never done yet, and it's gonna have to be done.
Well, I'm just trying to see if there's a way we can give back the 2% that we took back 2 weeks ago. Or, but at the same time, I need to see all the realistic numbers. Because it almost sounds like we're at a lower rate now than we were even 2 weeks ago when we took that away. If I start filtering in what I think we're gonna need next year, and this year we spent over $800,000 throughout the year on various things. There were some big ticket items that won't be recurring, obviously, but, so I'm trying to get myself at a comfort level of where we're gonna be on our unencumbered reserves. Because when I was talking to Mr. Reynolds this morning, I told him, $4.9 million will last this county 2 weeks, if you include the constitutionals. We blow through $2.5 million a week. So it's just not a lot of money, and I wish we had this piece of paper updated, the last one y'all did. It'd make me a little more comfortable. I know we are where we are, there's nothing we can do about it. And I was thinking the $131 million budget that I referenced earlier, that crept up throughout the year. That's the reason it's at 134.
No, that's the adopted
The adopted was
budget
134?
Was 134 last year.
Okay.
I don't compare,
What is our year end then from 134, where are we now?
I don't have that number, and you'll probably have more budget amendments between now and the 60 days after that we have.
That will affect the 18-19 budget?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I will tell you this. One of the pieces of paper that I gave you is an analysis of responsible budgeting. Are operating revenues covering operating expenditures? It's a single sheet, and that's the title of it.
Yeah.
The excess of operating revenue over operating expenditures is almost $186,000. That's probably not enough to give that 2% back.
It's 160,000 for 2%.
Because of the transfers to the other funds.
And you said it was 100 and, where's that number on here?
It's in the lower right-hand corner.
I'm not seeing it. Oh, you, okay. And you're saying you don't think that would be enough? Because we were, before, 2% equaled 160. Just saying. Because a lot of what you're transferring in is from vacant positions, call it attrition, call it vacancies, whatever. And that's forcing our employees to work harder. So I just wonder if there's a way we can consider that.
I mean, I could be wrong. The 185 may be just enough.
Could we,
Commissioner Harvard, do you have a question?
Well, no, I have a statement, though. If you look at just our reserves, we would have been better off in reserves had we stayed fully funded on our insurance, but we went self-insured. So we moved 1.3 million out of that for that category.
Yes.
So that's a $1.3 million hit on reserves immediately, but it really didn't go away. It's still sitting in another account, and eventually we'll come back home once that insurance fund starts being profitable. Yeah, we hope.
Exactly.
We hope. But I mean, that was a good thing. So what I'm trying to say is, like you said 2 years ago, we couldn't have done that. We couldn't have moved that 1.3 million over. Couldn't do it last year. And we lessened the tax base or the millage, but this year we're able to take that 1.3 and dedicate it, which is a good,
Reserve-wise, you're healthier
Yes,
this
right,
year than you
exactly.
were last year, and far healthier
Than
than
2
you were
years.
the year before.
That's right.
Reserve-wise.
Right. And we got good things coming up on the horizon, so, and I believe that. I believe Putnam County's days are better going forward at this point, financially, Now, we got to keep righting the ship, but we're doing pretty good. We didn't fall over in the harbor like they did recently,
But they rescued those men.
under discussion, I'd just like to see if there's any interest in maybe taking a look at unringing the bell. We took back 2% because things were completely different 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have an opportunity to.
Wait, Commissioner Goddard?
I wanted that raise up there. But looking at everything and looking at what we got coming up, I think we would be prudent just to leave it alone. We've already voted on it. Leave it alone and then work on it next year.
Mr. Chairman.
You done? Okay. Commissioner Turner?
I totally agree with Commissioner Goddard. One of the hardest things that I believe I've done since I've been here, other than voting for that first budget, which really sucked. Other than that, one of the hardest things I ever done was to vote to take that 2% away from from what we had voted on previously. But they're gonna still get a bonus, plus the 6%. And, you know, I was gonna try not to do this, but I can't stand it, so I'm gonna do it. You know, I think that everybody in this county should know that what the property appraiser's office did. Now, I'm sorry, but it was wrong, in my opinion. He submitted a budget, a request. He sent in a amended budget request to the Department of Revenue, asking for raises at the same amount that we were gonna get raises, even though he had already given people raises the previous 2 years and we hadn't given them, and our people hadn't had a raise. And so it looks to me like what's fixing to happen here is that the property appraiser is gonna get a raise 3 years in a row, and the third year, they're gonna get a raise higher than ours is gonna get that haven't had a raise in 10 years. And we had no choice, because he took it to the Department of Revenue and basically thumbed his nose at us when we asked him if he could hold his rate. So not only did he not hold his rate, he went up another 100,000 or something over top of what he had originally asked for. So, you know, I think that was wrong, and that was what prompted us to have to take the 2% away. So basically, in order to fund the property appraiser's employees an 8% increase in theirs, we basically had to take 2% from all the other employees in the county that haven't had a raise in 10 years and give that to the property appraiser, because the only way we could fight it would be to appeal to the governor and the cabinet. Nobody wins those kind of fights. So I think that I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. But I think the budget as presented this evening is just, in my opinion, what we're gonna have to go with at this time, Mr. Chairman.
If I could say one more thing, I can't say this loudly or hardly enough, and that is that what helps this county out the most is the fact that we have vacant positions, and it saves us about $1 million, which puts the onus on the folks that are working out in the field. And I just, you know, personally, I would consider it, but if we're not going that direction, I won't even make the motion.
There's already a motion on the floor.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate all your comments, and I understand we definitely all are in agreement to, at the beginning of this budget process, is to attempt to give our employees raises.
Right.
And so we have accomplished that. It's not what we had hoped for, but at least it is a raise, and from what I understand, it's the first raise in almost 10 years for some of these employees. And we've got a lot of hard-working employees, and we know that we're in competition with other counties and other businesses in this county for our employees. And so I think we're doing the best we can at this particular time, and we will continue to strive for the same thing next year, to try to reduce the millage rate, increase reserves, and you know, hopefully raises also. So, okay, so we have a motion on the floor, and we do have a second, correct? Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for passing the millage part of this evening's
Mr. Chairman,
agenda item.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a tentative budget, all funds for fiscal year 2019-20, total budget, all funds 134, 345, 184.
645.
645, 134, 645, 184.
Second.
Okay, we've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
Thank you. That is all I have for you this evening.
That is it? Okay, I would assume we have to open up public comment. That's what I thought. I'm gonna say he didn't prompt me to do it, so.
Comment about what we're gonna
If we're gonna ring the bell, I got more to talk about.
Okay, all right. Any further business come before this board? We stand adjourned.